So I was one of those kids that grew up reading Roald Dahl. I was first introduced to him by my second grade teacher when we read the BFG in class. Our class loved that book so much that we moved into Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, and then we got about halfway through Charlie and the Great Glass Elevator before we as a class all decided it wasn't any fun and stopped reading it. And part of what I loved about Roald Dahl as a child is things that were being pushed to me at the time were like the Babysitter's Club or this Ralph character story that I vaguely remember being entirely disinterested in. Both of those were very like slice of life reality, and I had such a hard time focusing on them or finding anything engaging or relatable about them that like these larger than life whimsical stories really caught my attention. So I went on to read on my own like The Fantastic Mr. Fox and James and the Giant Peach and The Witches and Matilda all before I hit the 6th grade. It's worth noting that 5th grade is literally the last time I read anything by Roald Dahl. At that point in time, I had sort of realized that Roald Dahl books all sort of fit generic pattern, and I kind of could see where they were going, even though a lot of times they had fun ideas. So like many people, I have a lot of fond memories of Roald Dahl, and even before this editing issue had come into play, it was definitely something I was wondering about whether or not these were the kind of books that I would give to my nephew or would want to read with him going forward. And I had decided that even though this book series had been a gateway for me in a lot of ways, I wasn't going to read these stories to my nephew until he got a little bit past that general age group, or maybe never, even though Roald Dahl has a lot of whimsy, things that I think really appeal to kids that they find funny and sometimes even empowering. There's also some subtext in them that I don't think is necessarily good to expose children to. And if I were going to expose a child to it, it would be on a one-on-one situation where I could find other works that would counterbalance that, or where we could stop reading and have a discussion about this thing that Roald Dahl had written or said. And I do think that as Roald Dahl's works stand right now, they're not appropriate to be read out loud in the classroom anymore. And that's kind of sad because it's how I first found him. But at the same time, there's so many new, fresh things that I bet are also doing interesting, innovative stuff without being problematic. And I think like my experience and take with Roald Dahl here is kind of what rolls me into like these edits. Obviously, the reason that anyone is editing Roald Dahl at this point in time is to make him more palatable to modern sensibilities. And there's literally no reason to do that because we have a million books that are palatable to modern sensitivities. And instead of reading that Roald Dahl book in the classroom, we should pick one of those other books. And if you want to talk about censorship or changing an author's work without the author being present or having consent or participation in that process, I think Ashley over at Bookish Realm covers that topic adequately, and there's very little I could add to that part of the conversation. But one thing I do have some input in is a lot of people are trying to politicize this decision to edit Roald Dahl books. And I want to make it very clear, this is not a political thing. This is a capitalism, financial, business decision thing. Whoever owns the rights to Roald Dahl has decided they're not done making money off of his works, and they will do whatever it takes to continue to get parents to read these books to children, regardless of whether or not that's the best thing for the children involved, or the parents, or the teachers, or for literature and books as a whole. Obviously, there are many places where art and capitalism don't mix together. If you want to do a creative project and you can't convince people that there's a market for it, then you're less likely to get it funded, and that stagnates art forms and our general way to innovate storytelling and creativity as a whole. And I think we see that more clearly in movies and TV shows than we do in fiction, like this continual reboot where something successful has already worked, so we're going to go ahead and just remake it instead of making something new, or where movies look for popular books that they can pilfer through, and even if their adaptation is barely related to the original source material, they use that franchise's name and popularity to kind of imply that there's a built-in audience, and that way they're able to get their story told. Here, Roald Dahl is something that's been continually popularly bought and sold. It's something that's like almost 3 generations deep in popularity. It has a strong, modern, relevant media context because so many of these stories have been made into successful movies. Even successful remakes of those movies exist. And it's also a little bit pulling on that dark side of nostalgia. Like, families as a whole like to share things that they loved in their youth with the next generation. And some nostalgia and family traditions are great, like family recipes are a good thing, or like family fun holiday traditions. But you can't uncritically take things from the past and just carry it forward to the next generation, which is something that this nostalgia boom is like encouraging you to do, and something like these Roald Dahl edits are trying to make like easier for you. So if you are a thoughtful person, you are trying to think about like what would really best aid a child as far as both like something entertaining and something that has the right values. Charlie and the Chocolate Factory is definitely not it anymore. Arguably, I'm not sure it ever was. I do think there are a couple of useful conversations you could have from this small, like, Roald Dahl mess. What should you be looking for in a book that you're going to read to your child? How to address elements in stories that you think might be damaging to children or might be contrary to what you want them to learn. Which classics are we allowing in classrooms, and are they still appropriate and relevant to the sort of value and society we want now? And then I guess the other thing is, how do we stop publishers from editing books to continue to make profit off those books? Once we acknowledge that these changes are being made not for the benefit of society or the benefit of children or parents, but specifically because they want to continue to milk this cash cow for all it's worth, how do we get them to not do that? We don't necessarily want to share these books with children or continue to buy them or support them in place of other books. But we also don't want them to make these kind of edits or changes to these books, especially stuff like Roald Dahl is like a popular author who has a historic place in most people's minds. And I want to be able to pick up that book when I feel like it and know that it's 100% unaltered. I don't necessarily mind if the publisher wants to put out an abridged or edited version, but I feel like it should be marked very clearly on the cover. And maybe that's the best solution going forward, because obviously you can't stop people from doing whatever they want with the property they own. And I think that's really all the rambly thoughts I have on the Roald Dahl situation. Basically, capitalism is bad, this is a bad result, and the need to continually sell books and continually remarket us nostalgia doesn't respect our intelligence or our desire for art, or our desire to like foster certain things in our society and not foster others. It's just something that they're doing for the money. But if you have a different opinion than me, let me know in those comments down below. Did you read Roald Dahl as a child? And is he someone that you would read to a child today? And if you wouldn't read Roald Dahl to a child now, or if you would read him along with another book to a child to sort of like supplement it, let me know what those other books are in the comments down below. Thanks for watching, and as always, keep reading. Bye!